College students, are you broke? We feel your pain. Today on Carpe Diem. Hello and welcome to Carpe Diem. I'm Tara George, a professor of journalism here at Montclair State University. Last semester, I asked my class to pick an issue they thought was really important to students here on campus. They chose money, or rather, the lack of it. My students felt that almost everyone they knew on campus was suffering from financial hardship of some kind. And they noticed something quite remarkable. A food pantry had opened up right here on campus. So they investigated, and their multimedia journalism was published this semester in the Montclarian, the campus newspaper and website. Today, we're going to talk with students who worked on that story and discuss what they found. Joining me here today are Mario, Papa and Javier Reyes, students from my local journalism class. Welcome, Mario and Javier.
Thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
Mario, this is a really meaningful issue for students. Can you remember what it was that, when we talked about this as a class, what in particular did students say was important here?
Well, you gave us the previous two examples. Parking was one of them, commuter life, and you said think of a big issue on campus that affects not just like a certain amount of people, like most people on this campus, so we thought money was a good one because it affects me and affects a lot of people.
That's right. Javier, students are always broke, but it feels like there's something bigger going on here, that it's maybe a bigger problem than it has been in the past. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I feel like this is an issue that resonates more now for people, and I feel like they have, in a sense, a little bit of anger about it, and they want just kind of answers to that issue. Right.
So the food pantry opened up in the basement of the student center. And I think it's kind of a remarkable statement that there are students on campus who need food. In fact, I think a survey by the university found that 1 in 10 students suffers daily from real stress regarding food. Mario, what do you think about that?
That's very sad, I think, in my opinion. And the food pantry doesn't just have food, they also have hygiene products and all that stuff. So it's not just food people need, it's like hygiene products to keep them clean and stuff. And I think it's a great idea that Dr. Pennington, who started this food pantry back in 2016, was a great idea because people need that help, and this is a great resource for students.
That's right. Dr. Pennington is the Dean of Students here on campus. Javier, were you surprised to find that there was a food pantry on campus, and can you imagine why students might want to use it?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised. I think everyone knows that there are people who, suffer hardship, but I think I never see it per se, and I think that it was really eye-opening to see it, to see, close up what it's like, how those people, have to deal with these things.
That's right. In a minute, we're going to look at a package about an issue that I think students of all kinds on campus have noticed. And that's the difference between how much food costs here on campus and very same items off. Mario, do you want to set that video up a little bit? Tell us about it and who made the video?
Yeah, so Brianna Luciano and Georgia Salverin made a video about how prices and places like Dunkin' Donuts are more expensive on campus than off campus. And it was very shocking to me because I didn't realize it was that big of a difference.
That's right. One of the strongest elements of our multimedia report was this video showing that same items of food and drink cost more on campus than off. Let's take a look.
Here I have 2 small cups of Dunkin' Donuts coffees. Although they may look the same, their prices vary at different locations.
Some things I find expensive at the cafe, and especially the Dunkin' Donuts, that is a lot more expensive than the one by my house. It's like an extra $1 and a couple of cents.
My partner and I investigated further and discovered that prices at an off-campus Dunkin' Donuts offered the same products for less. For example, a small hot coffee at the Upper Montclair location was 30 cents cheaper than a small hot coffee on campus. Other products, such as iced coffees and lattes, were also cheaper than on-campus prices. Students also argue that the prices for campus meal plans are more than they can afford.
I find it very expensive.
Okay, and why do you find it expensive? What do you find expensive about it?
Just the pay brackets and everything like that. It's just easier for me to work and get my own money and pay for my own food here. That or I just bring food from home, make my own meals and stuff.
I think it's really expensive. Even my parents say all the time, they're like, we can't afford these prices, so next year you gotta house somewhere else because they're too expensive to afford.
Overall, students would like to see the campus make food more affordable.
I think that the schools should make it more affordable for students, especially for commuters, because a lot of days I do go through the day hungry. Because I do live fairly close, but it isn't worth it to drive back home to make something to eat just to come back here because I have a class. I'd rather just pay for something that's cheap over here and then go to class over here without wasting gas, because that's gas money too.
Reporting from Montclair State University, I'm Brianna Luciano.
Javier, this video really struck a nerve with students. I showed it to some of my other classes and they really felt that they'd noticed this too. What do you think it says to students who are on campus that they have to face this issue?
I think it shows just how prevalent the issue is, and that this is something that can be, from simple Dunkin' Donuts. Everyone wants to just wake up and, get their morning coffee and stuff, and it shows you that, sometimes they can't do that, and the money discrepancies between on and off campus are, noticeable.
That's right. Mario, so we talked about the pantry, we talked about the discrepancies in cost. One of the issues that students also complain about is dealing with financial aid, the cost of tuition. Talk a little bit about what the reporting for this package found.
Well, there is a big difference between out-of-state tuition and in-state tuition. I myself am an out-of-state resident. I'm from Staten Island, New York, so I pay around $20,000, considering the fact I get some financial aid and some scholarships from Montclair State. But for other people who are out-of-state, they're not so lucky. And I did a report on an out-of-state resident, dance major, BFA, Bachelor of Fine Arts. Her name is Jessie Christ, and she said that Bachelor of Fine Arts majors from out-of-state can get in-state tuition, and that really blew my mind, because that shows that Montclair State wants these students to come here. And Jessie told me in my report that if it wasn't for the fact that they were offering her in-state tuition, she wouldn't be here right now. And she said she saves almost $8,000 because of that.
So as someone paying out-of-state costs, that must have really struck a nerve with you.
Exactly.
Javier, what about you? Long lines at the financial aid office, complaints about students about the threat of getting deregistered. Did they resonate with you also?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's sad, you know what I mean? And it's something that everyone has to deal with. And it's not, pretty. It's a really ugly process that, unfortunately, we all have to deal with.
Right. So part of your contribution to this package was talking to students about ways that they'd found of coping with the day in, day out grind of finding money. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that students told you that they've come up with to survive?
Yeah, I talked to a few people and they told me about just these quirky little things that they do to save money here and there. And, it's not anything insane, they're not saving thousands of dollars, but it really helps. Like someone I talked to who, pours for their protein shakes half milk and half water. Someone literally, walks around on campus to pick up loose change, and told me how there's certain vending machines that actually are less at certain places, like the one in Danilo versus the Student Recreation Center. So I thought it was just a really cool, kind of angle to go for with this stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Mario, the package also focused on families, right? It's not just students who are feeling the pinch, but one of the reporters on the piece interviewed a family. Can you remember and describe what they said about the experience?
Well, one of the students interviewed parents of a Montclair State student, and the parents said that this is the fourth child. They have 4 children, and their goal was to put all of them through college, and they are struggling a little bit. They actually were so desperate for money that they actually rented a room in their house just to get some extra money. And that shows you that it's hard to make money these days. College is expensive.
Yes, it is. Javier, do your family complain about the cost of education?
Yeah, for sure. I know my mom always is saying like, "Wow, it wasn't like this when I was younger. It was more affordable. You know, it's still expensive, but more affordable, and it didn't send you into this kind of downward spiral almost." And it really shows you like, I can only imagine what it's like for other families because I'm an only child personally, but for people who have more than 2 children, like I can't even imagine what that's like.
Right. So the reporters on this piece, because they wanted to be balanced, they asked the administration about this issue. Right. They went to people who think about these issues here at Montclair State to find out why students are suffering so much and what they're doing about it. Mario, what did they find?
Well, Brandon Drayton, one of the students in the class, interviewed Dr. Karen Pennington, Vice President of Student Development and Campus Life, and she understands that people are struggling financially. She's the one, again, as I previously mentioned, that started the food pantry, and she was once an RA, and one of her residents actually was smelled so bad she actually didn't have any money to afford hygiene products, and that stuck with her, and she understands what people are going through.
Yes, it's clear the administration is aware of this issue. The pantry was their idea. They also explained that it has to do with how much money the university gets from the state. Javier, do you remember that piece of it?
Yeah, for sure. It shows, we had a nice little chart of that showed, the differences between the 2000 and right now, and how it's now, most of the money is being acquired from students more than it is just state tuition. So I think that shows you just how much the university relies on students. But on the other side, it's like, it's kind of unfortunate that, the students have to pay for everything. Well, not everything, but a lot of it.
That's right. The amount of money that the university is getting from the state has been decreasing, right? That was their point. And in order to basically meet their $400 million annual budget, they need to charge students more. That's what it boils down to. I don't know if you guys remember, but they also said that they lose money because students don't pay their bills. Do you guys remember how they deal with trying to enforce that and get students to pay up?
Yes. According to Dr. Pennington, she says if administration starts deactivating people's Canvases accounts, that's when it catches the attention of students and they're like, oh, I have to pay my bills. I'm caught at this point because they can't see their grades, they can't see their assignments, they can't see when something's due. They don't have access to that because they're not paying their bills. So that's actually a good idea to start deactivating people's Canvases when their bills aren't due in time.
That's right. And some students obviously can't even, when they're threatened with that, they still can't pay and they drop out. Javier, we had in the report a student who, hit some hard times and had to drop out of college. Is that something that you think students worry about?
I think so. I think they worry about it for sure. It's tough because a lot of people have so many things to do, and then on top of that, they have to work, then they have to do school, and they have to do well in school. So for some people, it's just really unfortunate that they have to worry about the money side of things instead of just focusing on their studies.
So you guys are journalism students. It seemed like you guys felt that you were working on a really important issue, and clearly it is. Can you talk about what it was like to work on this project personally, and any ramifications that you saw after the piece was published?
Well, I thought it was a great idea to use my radio skills to the test because I have my own radio show here on campus, and I think it was a good idea to interview someone that I think is the only reason why she's here is the fact that she has to pay, she gets in-state tuition. Sometimes I wish I could do that because I'm a College of the Arts major too. I feel that's very important in my opinion, and that's why I wanted to talk to her. I knew she gets paid in-state tuition even though she's from out of state, she's from Pennsylvania, so I felt it was very important to talk to her, see what she felt about it. And again, she said this was the only reason why she's here, because she gets in-state tuition.
Right. Javier, after it was published, did you notice people talking about it, or did you, were you interested to see what people thought?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. People told me they really appreciated the variety that was in the piece, that you didn't just have in-state versus out-of-state. You had, Dunkin' Donuts prices to the in-state and out-of-state tuition. You had, like what I did with the little quirks that people did to save money. and then the food pantry, and then all the numbers associated to it with comments from Dr. Parrington. So that's what people really liked about it, that it covered all of the bases that are attached to this issue.
Yeah, that's right. You know, it's important to have impact, and I think you guys really did. I was really proud of you all. And in fact, the following week, the Montclair ran a follow-up piece on this, and in it they interviewed the president, and she basically was reacting to your piece. Did you guys take a look at that? Did you see it, Mario? She was talking about, you know, understanding where students were coming from, and complaining that administration officials were trying really hard to find ways to help students with these issues. She also did say that she felt some of the onus also fell on the shoulders of students, in that they had to be a little bit more organized and take a little bit more responsibility for dealing with some of the finances. Do you think that that's true in your experience on campus? Do you think there are some students who could maybe help themselves a little bit better in the way that they deal with these financial issues? Maria, what do you think?
I feel students should help themselves because they're responsible. We're college. We're supposed to be responsible young adults. And this is the first step into being on your own in the future. College is here we're here so Montclair State could help us prepare us for the outside real world. And if it's just going to keep getting more expensive, then obviously people are going to drop out, and they're going to have to start living, and they're going to have to start being responsible adults instantly. And it's very important, I think, that we need this education in order to succeed in life. And if the money is just not there for us, then it's not going to happen. And I think goals could be crushed by this, because if someone's here to study to become, I don't know, like a scientist, for example, and the tuition is very expensive here, and your dreams are basically thrown down the drain because the money is just not there, and it's hard. It really could crush someone's dreams. Right, it's a real obstacle that students have to deal with, right? Javier, you're going to be graduating with debt from here, and how are you going to handle that?
You know, I honestly try not to think about it too much. I try to just focus on my studies, but I know that, you know, it's hard work, and I think that's what we have to go through. I don't want to equate everybody's situation as being the same thing, but I do think absolutely it's a fair point. You know, there is some onus to be placed on students. It's a responsibility.
Right. So it's not just Montclair State students who feel this issue. Do you think that the work that you did in this investigation has implications and resonance for people beyond Montclair State? Are you finding that your friends in other colleges are also facing these issues, perhaps even more?
Well, I think it's a very important issue for not just Montclair State students, but everybody, maybe not just the state of New Jersey, but states all over the country. Well, I know New York has tuition free now, but it doesn't count like room and board, it's just basic tuition. But going back to New Jersey, new Governor Phil Murphy hopes to make college more affordable, get more state funding, because the state funding for Montclair State's decreased in years past, as depicted in the pie chart in the Montclarian article. So he hopes to get more funding, which hopefully maybe lowers tuition just a little bit, because since I've been here since 2015, the tuition's gone up increasingly. And my mom's noticed it, and she's like, oh, thank goodness you're leaving in another year or two, because I can't keep paying this amount of money every year. It just keeps getting more and more. We're taking out student loans, we're applying for the FAFSA, we're taking out like some money from my dad's retirement fund, which when I hear about that just makes me sad, because they're making all these sacrifices just so I could attend this school out of state.
That's right. A lot of sacrifice being made on all fronts. Javier, for a student who's graduating, you know, with all of that pressing down on their shoulders, does it have implications for kind of jobs you might consider? Maybe it forces you to consider a job that's high paying rather than something that's more interesting. Maybe you might have to go back home to live. Have you thought about these issues?
Yes, I think that, you know, I look at, you know, prospectively what the job market is going to be. And, you know, there are certain things I'd like to do, but also, you know, I have to be a little bit realistic and say, hey, I need to, you know, put food on the table for myself. And, you know, I don't expect to be living on my own completely, you know, in some grand, you know, house or anything like that. But, you know, it'd be nice if I could just find some balance, I guess, for something that I enjoy doing and something that pays well enough. I think that's what everybody wants.
Okay. So I want to move backwards in a way to talk about the process of reporting this piece. Did you find that students were, sometimes as a journalist it can be hard to get people to talk about stuff, right? Did you find that people were willing to talk about this, or was it hard to drag information out of people? Mario, what did you find?
Well, for my case, Jessie Chris was willing to talk about it because she knew that, again, she pays in-state tuition, and I explained to her what the point of this was, what the Montclairan was doing, try to raise awareness of the fact that people all over campus are struggling financially, and it's a bigger problem than we actually think, so she was all for it. And the same could be said for other people that were included in this piece as well.
Okay. Javier, I know that you didn't directly deal with covering the pantry, but we discussed in class quite a few times some of the challenges of talking to students who use the pantry. Do you remember those conversations, and can you describe what the difficulties were that the reporters were facing?
Mm-hmm. Hey, it's tough, and I know I didn't deal with this personally because people I spoke to were thrilled to talk about something, and they felt like they were going to be famous or something like that. But with the food pantry, there's a lot of security to that. You can't just walk in. They say, hey, if you're not, getting food for the food pantry, they don't like people, just stopping by. And that's understandable. I mean, if I was in that situation, I don't know if I'd just want to throw it out there, hey, I'm, struggling. I don't think anybody likes to put that image of themselves out there.
Yeah, that's right. And it seems like there's more students than you would imagine who need to use the services of the pantry. According to the university's own survey, 1 in 10 people are really suffering and worrying about where they're going to get their food. And as a professor here on campus, that really breaks my heart that on top of their grades and their studies, students are worrying about where they're getting food from. And 1/3 of students have some kind of issue with where they're getting their food from every week. So it's a real challenge. What do you think the university, the state, what can be done to help students a little bit more on this front? Mario, have you had any thoughts about that?
Well, I think, one, state funding should be increased more for public education because Montclair State, it's a state school, so they should be getting more funding from the state. And again, it's decreased in years past, so I feel like if Montclair State gets more funding from the state, hopefully Governor Phil Murphy could do something about that, which is why most people voted him in the first place. Maybe they could lower tuition a little bit, make my senior year just a little bit easier.
I would like that for you, Mario. Javier, what about you? What do you think could be done to improve the situation for students here at Montclair State and also students in general?
I agree with Mario and everything he said. I also think that what's important is communication. I think that students would appreciate it more if they could, maybe the hassle of it per se, the, waiting in lines and stuff like that. I think if it's more of like a collaborative effort, or if at least students feel like, hey, the school isn't, out to get me, that they're speaking to me about these things, and I think that would help a lot for people.
Right. Montclair State is a commuter school, and so a lot of students have basically chosen to stay at home and, save some money on that front. Do you think that that's maybe why enrollments are going up here at the university, is because more and more students feel like that's the smart thing to do? Javier, what about you? Do you live on campus?
No, I do not.
Okay, so you're commuting in.
Yeah, which certainly saves a lot of money for sure. Yeah, I think students are thinking about that a lot. I think that it's a decision that you have to make. There are pros and cons to everything, I believe, and yeah.
Mario, I assume you're not commuting back and forth from Staten Island, right?
Oh, no.
So you're living on campus. You chose to pay for that experience. Can you explain, why? It's an extra few thousand, right?
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed, actually what my mom said is, room and board has gone up again, Mario. Good thing you're graduating another year or so, and room and board, everything has gone up. My meal plan's gone up, room and board, the actual tuition. It's like they're getting so many more people in Montclair State. I think they have over 20,000 students, and it feels like they're still not getting enough money here. I blame it partially on the state for not giving enough funding, but they do also get money from private donors, and this high cost of tuition makes me not want to go to grad school, because you think undergraduate education's this much? I could imagine how grad school costs a lot.
That's a really good point. So we have about 3 minutes left, guys. Any final thoughts about what it was like to work on a project like this with a group of people? Javier?
I really enjoyed it. I liked a collaborative, piece. I liked that we all, went and investigated separate issues. You know what I mean? That's my favorite part about it. It wasn't just a one-note type of assignment. And I think people think, oh, money, yeah, financial, yeah, of course, something with college, but it's true. And sometimes the simplest, or I should say obvious choice for a project is sometimes the best one. And I think that we really did well with that here.
Yeah, you guys really did. It was a pleasure to oversee a group of students who were so, kind of energized by the topic that you were covering. And I could see that you really felt that you were working on something that was important. Mario, we have 2 minutes left. If you were to work on this project over again, is there anything that you would have done differently, or any other issues that you think we maybe didn't have time to deal with that would have been relevant here?
Well, I would talk to more out-of-state residents, not just bachelor and fine arts majors, like people that are just here from out-of-state. I know another TVDM major that's from upstate New York, and I wish I had the opportunity to talk to her and see what she's going through. There are people on like the sports teams that are from Connecticut, and they're not paying in-state tuition. They're paying more money just so they could play a certain sport like basketball, for example. So I wish I was able to talk to, or I would talk to more out-of-state residents to see if they're going through the same things that I'm going through right now.
That's a really good point. Javier, what about you?
Oh yeah, for sure, because out-of-state students is, a little bit more interesting for me because, you pay more, and most of them are going to have to live on campus too. So that's what I would think I would focus a little bit more on if we were to do it again, for sure.
So 30 seconds left. You're broke, but you've had a good time here at Montclair State?
Absolutely. It's taught me a lot about, from social, social and, academically, I think I've, done a lot here.
And you've got how long to go?
This last semester and then one more year next year.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. It's really been a wonderful experience talking to you. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Carpe Diem. If you would like more information on this or any other edition, you can write to us at the email address on your screen, carpediem@mail.montclair.edu, or call us at 973-655-5158. For all of us at Carpe Diem, if you're in college and feel broke, we feel your pain. I'm Tara George.